Welcome to this humble abode. Traveler, let go of your load and get your fill. Revel in our high-level standards. Everything's transitory, but the streets are paved with gold. Broad avenues and boulevards to the heart of town, where the throng is mass. Ringtones for a song and ditties for the malls. No time to take the time, that time's past. Make it fast and make it pretty in Insanity City. Won't waste your time with confusion, eloquent truths and allocutions. A fast-paced, well-timed taste of sublime just don't belong. It's already written. We've hosed down the imperfections, closed down Desolation Road, and the late aspiration, inspirations of old. Why bother if it might not be bought and cannot be sold? The old must be replayed. We got no time to wait. Our own Savaro tailors to the many needs, with expert hands and skills. We fashion it well without skipping a beat. Decompression and painless remission. And a sole fee for admission is unconditional submission. Down Tin Pan Alley and Chancellor Lane, it is all neatly displayed. If you can afford it, are willing to pay for it, willing to go all in. Pray the Lord that you might be of those who strike gold with the right chord. Gotta come to your senses if you want to make ends meet. Man's not supposed to roam the road without end. But I'm tired of no trespassing signs and fences. I won't surrender, and I won't make amends. Though I don't have any answers, I will take my chances. Welcome, adversity. Goodbye, goodbye, Insanity City. for having me.
Yeah, Phileas.
Yes.
Phileas or Phileas?
Phileas. Yeah.
Phileas.
No one knows how it's pronounced. It's Greek. So.
Yeah, welcome to the show, man. You already played your music, which is remarkable. Now it's like 12, so it's noon. And it was a nice way to start with the music the day.
It was an early morning session. You could hear that.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Cool, so thank you for coming here.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
welcome for everyone who are listening. Maybe you can start with telling a little bit about yourself and what brought you to music, what is your current project is like. You have a new album that you released, which is incredible album. I really enjoyed this album. I listened to it a few times and I love the energy of the album. And there is something that is like, I heard it before, but then you give it a very, very unique character, either your voice or the way the songs are, or the sound sonics around them, and which makes it unique for you, which is amazing. So I encourage everyone to listen to this album.
Yeah, it was quite a lot of work. It was quite a process getting this album out, but yeah, it came out in October, and it's nice. And now I'm kind of like finishing up with it and moving on to the next album, which is already written, and 2 of the songs I played are probably going to be on that album as well. So,
which songs? What the names are?
It's Standing Still, which is the second song I played, which I wrote during the pandemic. So it's about like how we deal with the fallout and will we learn from our mistakes.
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah. And the first one was actually about the music industry. So it's also, this one's a pretty old song I wrote like, I think 10 years ago. And yeah, it's very long. It's kind of like Bob Dylan-esque, lots of verses and just this imagery of like, I even mentioned Desolation Row and just this whole idea of like, the music industry being a sort of like closed bubble. That's quite absurd in some regards. Yeah, so it's, these are all themes that run through the album. And then also there's a more political vibe to it. So the other songs are a lot about society and what kind of society we're going for and what is happening politically and stuff. So I'm excited about these songs. They have I think it's a different energy to the first album. But yeah, I'm looking forward to start recording these songs and playing them live.
What's the plan with the recording? How do you approach it?
I don't know. It's, I mean, I think like the first step will be to find some funding. So probably an application to some funding instance in Germany, because otherwise it's really difficult to really work in the conditions you want to work in. I mean, ideally, I would want to go into the studio with a band and almost play it live, but that's a tricky, very ambitious way of going about it. So I'll see. Like I'm in between 2 albums, so I gotta figure out like how I plan the next steps. And for the moment, I'm just playing as much as I can and enjoying the summer and the end of this very long winter.
Yeah, winter was interesting. For me, it went really fast, actually, the winter. It was cold.
It was cold and very long. It lasted from like November to April or something like that. So
it was not consistent.
Yeah, it's strange. And it was a
strange winter.
And a strange mood as well. Like people can tell that a lot of people are really affected by what's going on and climate and the war and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, in my case, the winter was saved by the fact that I finished writing the second album, and creatively it was very stimulating. So can't complain about that. But
how do you approach the writing sessions? How the music comes out of you?
Well, I mean, I used to work a lot with a dictaphone, so I would just improvise. It would be just like improvisation, and then I would listen back to the stuff, and whenever I find an element that I like, then I try and build a song around it. And usually there will always be like a phrase or some words that feel right, and then that's the start of the lyrics. But so music and lyrics are also always developing at the same time and influencing each other.
You get the music first, or you get the melody first and the lyrics?
Well, I mean that's the thing. Like I sit down with my guitar or on the piano, and then I just play, and then listening back to it, whatever catches my attention. It might be some weird chords sequence that I didn't expect to happen, or usually, oftentimes it's mistakes I made, which are
It's
like,
interesting.
yeah,
Usually mistakes bring a lot of bliss.
yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I know what I wanted to do, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, I do something else, which is weird, and then I'm like, I like that.
Yeah.
So I try and build the song around it. It's the same with lyrics. Like it needs to flow, and it needs to catch my intention.
Certain
attention.
words that you already improvised.
Yeah, I mean, when I improvise, it can be anything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have I don't choose a topic and then say I'm going to sing about politics, or I'm going to sing about the pandemic. It's just phrases, and then as the song develops, then I'm like, oh, this is the direction I want it to go, and then I just keep. It's a very long process. Then finishing the songs up, it usually takes months or years to finish my lyrics. I'm very demanding.
How does it work? Because I know there are some approaches. One approach is you can take and just write whatever it is, and you say it's good enough. But the other approach is to write whatever it is and then let it mature a little bit.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah.
this idea of maturing, and then, as I said, if I have like a melody or a chord sequence I like, and then I've got some lyrics, or some fragments of lyrics, and then I work on the lyrics, then they're gonna influence the way the chord sequence changes, and the other way around. So music and lyrics are always in interaction, and the goal is to write songs that I'm happy playing for years and years. So
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
usually not simple structures, because I get really bored of simple structures, or the lyrics have to be really good or really appeal to me in order to do the same thing for like 3 or 4 minutes and be happy with it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bob Dylan. Also, your music is very much songwriting kind of vibe and style. How would you say that you're influenced by those artists? Which artists are the ones that influence you the most?
Well,
So
I
you
mean,
really follow them.
that's what you said. Like, there's the songwriting aspects out there. I would say like Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Paul Simon, people like that.
The
Like,
old schools.
yeah, old school. But also like I have a couple of bands that I really enjoy following and listening to, like Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, or Gregory Alan Isakov, Paolo Nutini, and Nathaniel Rateliff. So these are all like really good songwriters, and then obviously there's this songwriting aspect, and then there's the band, like the kind of like rock and roll energy that you get from the Beatles and the Stones, and like from full band production. So usually my material is a singer-songwriter, is performed on the guitar, which I'm rarely happy with because it's very repetitive, and I'm not very skilled at the guitar. So that's why I like the idea of taking these songwriting pieces and going into the studio and then having other people try out stuff, and then drums and bass and guitars and horns and stuff like that, and make it something completely different while retaining the essence of like what the songwriting was about.
Yeah, I like this approach very much.
Mm.
I used to be very jealous about my music, but I don't know, something got released somewhere. And when I start to give people pieces of music to see what they come up with, I think this is where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
How open are you with this process? You just give them the essence of the song. This is the chords, the structure. this is how the melody goes, and then you let them do whatever they want?
Yeah, I mean, I've like there's been recently there's been kind of a change in the sense that I always used to write alone. So I always it was just me, guitar, voice, and then I would people would put their instruments or arrangements on it. But now I've started working more in the writing process itself with other people. So like changing a chord here or changing the structure and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have been able to do like 5 years ago because I was very I don't know, obsessive with like how it has to sound and how it has to
Yeah.
develop. And so that's a recent development that I really appreciate. It's just having insanely talented people chipping in and taking me out of my comfort zone and going like, yeah, obviously you would do that, but what if you tried this? And this is just usually where something really interesting happens. So on the album, for example, I have this song called Better Days, and originally it's just a finger picking ballad, so it was very simple finger picking. And then I started sitting down with my bassist, and he took out the fretless bass and started playing like this amazing bass line straight out of Graceland and Paul Simon. This whole phase, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So I dropped the acoustic guitar, and this was the new focus, like the new direction this song had to go in. And then the drummer did like a sort of calypso jazzy drumming on it, and all of a sudden this song I had been playing for years and years, and I was like semi-satisfied with. I thought it was a good song, but it was still like it's always the same finger picking. And now all of a sudden it's got a whole different energy and a whole different personality and character to it. So,
And what happened to the guitar in the song?
well, I mean, now when I play it live, I don't even do finger picking anymore. I just it's just
Strum it.
different strumming pattern, and it's just the whole energy is changed. Yeah, I mean, it's I think that's the beautiful thing about music is that you can do it on your own, and it's fine and it's nice. But I think the most exciting parts always happen. In my case, always happen in the studio when someone does something unexpected, and I'm like
Yeah.
perking up, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, that's the
this
magic.
is
I
good.
agree. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you trust the people and you like their energy.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like no matter what they do, you trust them.
Mm.
Yeah, it takes a lot of weight from the responsibility.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also what you said, because I mean, like the music I do is not. I mean, it's been done a lot. It's singer-songwriter and an old school rock and stuff like that, which I'm a big fan of. But if you want to do something new, or at least offer something that is surprising, then you have to work with people who can like take you in a different direction and say like, this is the obvious choice, but this might be a better one. And then it's up to you to see how far you're willing to go in terms of like the original material you had and what you wanted to say and sound like, and what these people are bringing on board.
Yeah, what they're vibing. Did it happen to you when someone brought an idea and you thought, no way, I'm gonna do this? But then somehow you realize that it works, but you just don't really get it. Did it
Yeah,
happen to
I
you?
mean that it's never an easy thing to let go of, you know, these, especially if it's songs that you've been playing for a long time, and you get used to it. You get used to the way you sing them. You get used to the way you phrase your lyrics and stuff. So when someone comes up and says like, you could do something different, or change this chord and make it minor or major instead of, you know, or the other way around, and yeah, and then you decide how, as you said, it's a question of trust. But the people I've been lucky enough to work with people where I'm like, they are so good that I trust them to make the right decisions. And as you said, the album is nice also in the way that it's surprising. Like every track is different, and
Yeah.
every track has like a different direction and different atmosphere, and that's mainly because these people were there to influence it and to take it somewhere else. If it was just me playing acoustically the whole album, then it probably wouldn't be as interesting as it is now.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We also talked before the podcast. We had a little bit of ranting about about the corruption in the music industry, which starts from Spotify that everyone listens to in a way, and then it also leaks to live concerts. And from your Spotify, it looks that you have a lot of listeners. I think you have like 50,000 monthly listeners, which is really impressive.
I know it's less, but I mean, yeah, it's good, but it's also it's kind of weird because like when I started out, I was like, if I get 50,000 streams on that album, then I'm happy. And now we're like, the figures are 5 times as high, but it doesn't change anything. And I know people who have like a million and a half streams on a song, and the impact is like non-existent. It's not like before you used to sell copies. If you sold 50,000 copies, that meant something. That meant that people were willing to go into the store and buy your records,
Yeah.
or stuff like that. And now it's just sort of like it's a different consumption of like music. It's people just listen to playlists, and random algorithms offer them music, and they're like, I like that, I'll put it on a playlist, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna check out the artist or dig any deeper into what he's done otherwise. And I mean, I'm the same. Like sometimes I'm really ashamed of myself because as a musician I should know better, but it's just the offer's too immense. Like it's really, it's a lot, and to dig through this offer is really exhausting. So that's why you end up relying on algorithms and people telling you this is good music or this is not worth listening to, which is what you were talking about, the kind of the danger, because then some people who might also have vested interests in getting some artists out rather than others will decide for you what you listen to.
Yeah, which is like that already.
It is.
It's also what you watch, what you eat. There's a lot of decisions that are being made for us without us knowing. And most of them are deteriorating us as humans, I believe. Especially the decisions with food. I don't know who makes the decision to decide that, I would say 90% of whatever they sell in Aldi, Penny, Netto, it's not really worthy to be called food.
Yeah, exactly. And that's interesting that you say that because, as you say, we spend a lot of time ranting about the music industry and everything that's going wrong, but I don't think it's specific to the music industry. I think the music industry is just a reflection of
Exactly.
us, broader society, and they just applied, I wouldn't say capitalist, it's more like neo-capitalist because it's pushed to an extreme that, because music has always been capitalist. Like, let's not fool ourselves. Like, rock and roll was like a mass marketing product from the very start. So to say now, oh, it's capitalism, it's a bit easy, but in the way it has developed, and to see a song as like just an object of consumption, and it has to be short, it has to be catchy, and not more than 2 verses and stuff like that. When really this formatted, this idea of everything fitting the same mold, is something that is just straight out of the handbook of capitalism, and it's like McDonald's. Like it's McDonald's for the ears. It's every burger's the same. It's been produced in the same way. It's served in the same way, and
it's been standardized.
Yeah,
It's the word
exactly.
standardized. It even
Standardized,
exists.
yeah.
So, but it makes sense if you want to create something very big, you must have the same consistency throughout every place you're gonna sell your food. You're right, because that's the thing with McDonald's. You eat here, you're gonna get the same thing even in France or in. It's not the best quality for sure, but I give you a better example. Dan's Biomarkt here in Germany.
Yeah.
So I really love them. Sometimes the fruit and the veggies are extremely expensive, but what they offer, besides that, they offer really good stuff in my opinion. Some of them in good prices. And I know everywhere I go in Germany, they are there. And I know I can get good food wherever I go, sorry, and they exist. So for this is good. For this, bless capitalism and bless McDonald's for creating this model, and it's not working for everything like that, because I would say most of the people just are comfortable with being fed and not really going and take care of what is getting inside their own plates. And it's the same with music. It's the same with everything. We just want to receive as humans, not to make any effort. That's why Gorillas, the delivery, it's so strong. Even though you pay more than you think because the prices are a bit higher there than the normal supermarket, and you also pay fees for the delivery.
Mm.
So I think overall you might pay like maybe 10 to 15% more if you would buy it in a supermarket, but it comes right to you, so it's easy and it's
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah, but I think as I said, that's why I was making this distinction between capitalism and neo-capitalism, because again, acts like the Beatles and the Stones, and I mean, there was always marketing involved. I mean, and Elvis
Yeah.
and rock and roll in general. I mean, it was a product, but at the same time, there was a quality to acts such as the Beatles and Pink Floyd, and that still resonate
Yeah.
today. So I think there's a difference between taking something shit and selling it to people, or force feeding them that, and just making like products that might not be as unique and I yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I think it's also our responsibility as artists to make it interesting. If what's the I don't know, uh, how do you call it, like the dress code, right? So if the dress code for music is to make a verse, chorus, verse, and make the first chorus in less than 30 seconds, so maybe you can take those kind of dressing codes for music, but put yourself there. It's like a party that you have to put a suit, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't have a suit, you will not go to a wedding with your training, like training clothes. You will go dressed nicely. You can wear whatever you want. You can even have a SpongeBob pajama for a wedding. But if you have a suit, you can then play with that. You can put whatever you want on the suit. It can be a SpongeBob suit, but it will look elegant, but you will have a little bit of SpongeBob's there.
Yeah.
So you can also put SpongeBob however you want. It's just the game is a bit different, and the rules that you need to apply those rules in order to play the game.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, the rules are constantly changing, and for me, at least as an artist, there's always been a red line in the sense that I know there are some things. If I start doing them, it's more about the motivation. If I say like I want to write a short, catchy song because I feel like it, and I want to, give my audience like something light, and that's fine. But if I say I want to write a short, catchy song that fits all the criteria of Spotify, so I can get on an editorial playlist, that's the first step in a direction that is really dangerous, because once you've done that compromise, it's just endless. Then they're going to say, yeah, it used to be 30 seconds, but now people are less attentive, so please now make it within the first 15 seconds, It's the same with like these platforms, like you used to have Facebook where the videos were longer, and now it's TikTok where you have like
Yeah.
15 seconds to catch someone's
Yeah,
attention.
yeah.
And the question is whether you follow this trend, whether you agree to play by these rules, because if you do, then the danger is that you lose yourself and you lose what you wanted to say, and then you're just selling something that doesn't even correspond to who you are, what you want to say. So I'm always very wary of these criteria and people telling you should do this and this is the music that's gonna work, because also no one knows what is working, like, so someone can do a song that is 10 minutes long and it's gonna be, Brain Damage or Dark Side of the Moon or whatever, and Bob Dylan can do a 16-minute song because he's Bob Dylan, and it's fine, and other people are just going to scramble to get their songs below the 3-minute threshold and just lose themselves doing that. So it's more about what you want to say and who you want to be as an artist, and
Yeah.
how much compromise you can do without losing yourself.
Yeah, I think there is a big distinguish to make between being an artist and selling the music. They're
Yeah.
two different things completely. You can write like 30-minute songs if you want, but the question is, would it be sold?
Yeah, but I mean that's exactly the point where it's gotten really difficult for musicians nowadays, because it used to be you're a musician, you deliver the songs, and then someone takes care of like advertising them. And today you're not just an artist, you're also like a manager, you're booking agent, you're
Yeah.
community management, whatever. You do everything, and you need to get people to listen to your stuff. And there's a conflict of interest there, because as an artist, I'm like, I want to do a song that has like 7 verses in it, and then the manager in me will say like, don't do that, because people are not going to listen to 7 verses of music. They're going to stop after the first one because it's too boring. So again, yeah.
If you go with 7 verses, so today for sure this is way too much for people's attention, right? Yeah, but I think there are ways that you can take those 7 verses and give them a showcase, which it will be interesting for people. So 7 verses, I would say the song might be like 6 minutes,
Yeah.
7 minutes. So
Yeah,
if you make a short video out of it, it's also a way to grab attention.
yeah, but I mean that's what I'm saying. Like it's not a one-way thing. It's not people. That's why I'm saying the rules change constantly, because people get influenced by what they hear, in the same way that people change with what they eat, or what they consume, or the air they breathe. So these are all influences that shape us as humans and shape us as society. And what's been happening over the last couple of years, that's what I was saying, is that people got more and more used to short, catchy, and then shorter and more catchy, and it gets to a point where suddenly everyone's afraid of AI, because they say, oh, what if a computer writes songs? And I'm like, I couldn't care less, because honestly, what I hear on the radio, it could have been written by a computer.
It probably will be better.
It probably would be
We'll have
better
better radio music with
and
AI.
more sincere than the shit that someone
Yes.
came up with, and knowing that the motivation of this person in writing the song was not, how can I express like a genuine feeling, or how can I connect in a sort of honest way, but it was just, how can I get on the radio? These are the criteria. How can I catch people's attention? Gotta make a crazy video, and that's why I'm saying. So it's yeah. I mean, again, there's no rule, and some artists have managed to assert themselves in completely different ways, and some have failed. So in the end, I think it's always, success always justifies everything. And today, I mean, there's this I don't know if you've seen it, this biopic about Queen, like a Bohemian Rhapsody.
The movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And there's this amazing scene where they're in the label office and they're presenting Bohemian Rhapsody to the guy. And he's like, this song is endless, and then he's got like the Freddie Mercury has this really amazing quote where he says like, I pity your wife if you think 6 minutes is endless, which I thought was a great line. And anyway, and so I mean, at that time, releasing this song, and then you see all the different, like how the critics and the media responded to that song, and they were absolutely, they were trashed the Queen. They were like, yeah, wannabes, Led Zeppelins, it's shit, it's below par, it's everything was just like, no one could understand what they were doing, and no one cared about what they were doing. But in the end, Bohemian Rhapsody became the first song from the 80s to get 1 billion streams on Spotify, and it's still one of the most recognizable songs.
Yeah.
And it's often voted the best songs of all time. So at that point, obviously you couldn't know. Same with Pink Floyd, like, Wish You Were Here. What kind of album is that? Who does that today? Like, who has the balls to say, yeah, I want this? Or again, Bob Dylan, 15 verses and counting, or Leonard Cohen. Like, when these people started, David Bowie, when they started, like, it took a huge amount of courage on the part of some people to say, this is unusual.
Yeah.
This will challenge the audience. That definitely won't be easy to sell. But if we manage to do it right, then it's going to be timeless. Whereas your under 3-minute songs, verse, chorus, verse, catchy, whatever, auto-tune, it's going to be gone in 3 months. No one's going to want to listen to that anymore. So again, it's this short-term thinking that is like a prominent feature of our society and of capitalism and neo-capitalism. But in the end, yeah, the money and the time and the energy you invest in making something shitty and selling it to people, you could also invest in making something good and also selling it to people.
Yeah, definitely.
And profit from it on a long-term basis. But
Yeah, that's the problem with the human mind. We want to rest. The life that we live, it's not the life that we were born to live, right? We were not born to sit down for hours. We basically are born to be out there in the wilderness. If we want to eat something, we need to either gather it or kill it. And now everything comes to us. And because we always had to go on the run to find something, either it's security or is it food, then we wanted to rest. We don't want to go and hustle. And now when you don't really have to do that and you can rest, so I think it affects society in all the ways. It starts from, again, the food, and you can also go outside in the streets, look at the new buildings. They don't look so impressive. They look boring. It feels like they're like this building, for example. You know, it feels like there's just boxes of apartments just to
yeah,
put people so they can sleep there. If you go to old buildings in Berlin, they look amazing. In Schöneberg, they have like the original places.
of course, yeah. But I mean, but that's also the thing that people are unhappy with it on a sort of like maybe more subconscious level for a lot of people, but they're not happy with it. It's not
Of course,
satisfying.
yeah.
But also they get used to it, and the more they get fed this kind of food, and the more they get exposed to this kind of music and this kind of culture and this kind of thinking, the more they get used to it, and the less they are willing to engage and be curious and say like, okay, maybe I'm going to listen to someone, who's maybe the song is a bit longer, and I need to actually sit down and actually listen to it, and I can't just play it in the background and be like and hum along. But it's someone who like kind of like this interaction of like the artist saying, would you please like to sit down and listen to what I have to say? That's
Yeah,
like
not
in
in the
today's
background.
culture, it's amazing. Like
It's
because
non-existence.
yeah, I mean people they do it like they do it with the acts they know. That's why it's interesting also to see the development of like how all these bands from like the 60s and 70s are still hugely successful in touring and stuff, and also with albums, because people are used to them. You know, they've grown up with them, and
Yeah.
they know the song, they know your universe, they know what this person is about, and they can't get enough of it. But I think that one of the reasons why this is so is because people are sort of anxious or afraid of like the vastness of information and cultural offerings that they get bombarded with as soon as they step out their comfort zone. And so they're like, I don't want to discover new artists. I just want to listen to the ones I know,
Yeah.
because I know what is there, and I don't get anxious about everything I'm missing out on and stuff like that.
It's a very interesting way to think about it. I never thought about it like that. Because also a lot of the new music is either the same or not good.
No, I mean that's sometimes I get I could say exactly the same thing. I don't think that's true. I think we're living in a really creative phase of humanity. I mean, I'm speaking in terms of music because that's what I know best. But I don't think there's ever been that much music, and good music also. I mean, there's amazing people doing music, and I know a lot of Berlin-based artists that are just incredible. And I'm like, I cannot believe that people don't know about these
Mm.
musicians. Um, but the sad thing is that the attention, and that's the main point of this whole discussion, is where's the attention going to? And the attention is just being monopolized by some people and some forms of expression and art, which are not interesting. You know, they have all the limelight, and the people who are actually doing interesting stuff, in the most cases, are not being heard because they are too unusual, because they're too challenging to the audience, and
Hmm. I don't necessarily agree on that. You know, sometimes just the fact that you can take a guitar and play G, C, and D, this is something remarkable. And as much as it feels this is just the most simple chords I can think about, there are many people who cannot even do that. So just by you playing C, G, and D, you have all of a sudden a lot of leverage to your energy that you can influence other people. So if we take this just to play those chords, will make you a musician. So to create them digitally, it's even easier. And I think this is why there is so many people who are making music today, because it's easy to do that. You just buy like a simple keys and you make whatever you want on those keys, and you have all the instruments that exist. But then there is another thing to create music, just it to be created, and there is another thing to actually bring it to people. And this is art of itself, the art of marketing, the art of making network, the art of talking to the right people and knowing how to talk with them. And this is very sad when you know someone who is really good, but they don't seem to really use the whole potential. There is a good friend of mine back from Israel, really talented guitarist, one of the best guitarists I've seen in my eyes. And I was lucky enough to be close to him, so he taught me a lot about how to practice, how to keep the technique, how to become faster, more accurate. And he's not really doing anything with that. He made an album, and he put a lot of time in this album, and nothing really happened with that. The album was mixed very poorly. He did not really push the release, the marketing, whatever is happening there. And the songs are incredible, but that's the only thing. There's songs and the playing there in the album. Also, the other players who play in the album, they are insane players.
Yeah.
But the mixing is not so good. So when you listen to the album, you have a lot of mud, you know. And if you're a mix engineer, if you know a little bit about this, maybe you can fix it yourself so you can make it more enjoyable for you. But for people who don't know anything about it, they just listen to that and something does not sound right. And then no one afterwards hears about it.
Yeah, but I mean
Yeah.
that's what you say, like, because
And he's very talented. I think it's orchestrating a lot of things in the same time, and that's what can make you a successful artist or not. You know, if you want to break through this glass ceiling that everyone is stuck there somehow.
yeah, I mean, I think what I find fascinating is what you said. There's this. There used to be, like, I think, a bigger gap between people performing music or making music and wanting to share it with the world. So I think it's a direct result of, like, the whole TV reality and talent shows and X Factor and whatnot.
What is the gap again? Can you repeat it?
I mean, because, like, as you said, like, everyone can play music today,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
easy.
fine, because if people want to grab a guitar and just play, why not? Of course they should. It's nice, but it doesn't stop there. People want all the people, whoever plays the guitar, almost wants to share it with the world. That's why people use DistroKid and CD Baby, and
Yeah.
and you don't have any. Yeah, there's no separation between making music for yourself and selling yourself. So everyone wants to sell themselves, regardless of how talented
Exactly.
they are or if they have something to say. And that's where I get critical, because I don't think it's about the music. Like, I don't think these people truly care about music. They care about being seen. So music is
Yeah.
just one way, as would be to be an Instagram celebrity, or to be like a jet set, whatever, you know, all these people flying about that no one knows what they're actually doing, but they're famous, so who cares? And I think it's the result of, like, this whole culture of telling people everyone's an artist, and especially for music, because these shows were huge, and X Factor, you know, it's always the same build-up. It's always like someone unexpected who's not
Yeah.
known, and then he goes on stage and everyone's like, oh wow, this
It's
is
sexy.
so great.
Everyone wants to be there.
Yeah,
I
and
want to be there, man.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you watch it, you're like, oh, I could do that, you know. But then I think there should be a sort of, like, humility to say, in order to put myself in front of thousands of people, be it online or on stage, I need to work. It's years and years and years and years of practice. And the problem is that people don't really want to put that effort into it. They're just like, they want just a quick way to get attention. And that's where things get complicated, because as you said, the really talented people, they're going to focus on their music. They're going to focus on practicing their instruments and their songwriting and you know, and really carefully producing their stuff. Whereas other people don't have all these qualms. They just do whatever, record it in whichever way, and just throw it out into the internet, on YouTube, on Spotify, whatever, and drown out. And it's a huge, massive sea of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't get through. And this is where it becomes problematic, because in the end, when that happens, the power reverts to the people who can decide who is listened to and who is not. And these gatekeepers, which are Spotify, which are major labels, which are TV stations or whatever, well, they can just say, like, I want this guy to be famous. No one cares about what he's actually doing. He's good looking and whatever. We could get some traction with like female audience or male audience or whatever, and that's how you get into a situation where you listen to the same stuff over and over again, and you're like, so kind of frustrated, and you're just like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You get anxious because you know there's so much out there, but how do you find it? I mean, that's like whenever you go to, or you talk to tech people about like the major developments of like the future, it's always about algorithms. So it's always about like a functionality to find new music, or to like tailor to people's specific needs. That's where the money is in tomorrow's music, not in who's actually talented or who's actually got something to say. It's just like, how do I find a way to get heard? And then everyone's going kind of like crazy about wanting to be in the limelight.
Yeah, that's the dark side of it. I think I'm not so much there with the music that I consume, or I'm not there even with my awareness. So this is kind of a blind spot for me, with all the shitty popular stuff that is happening. But I notice it on the radio. When I have just radio playing somewhere that I'm driving, it doesn't happen so often. But when I listen to the songs, they're just manufactured pop songs. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the thing, because I mean, again, it's nothing new. Like in the first song I played, I talked about Tin Pan Alley. That was like the 30s in America, and that was people just sitting in a building and just writing songs all day. So it's not like it's a new development, but these people were hugely talented, which also like some songwriters are today, but they also had a sort of creative freedom within the boundaries of what they were trying to do, which was write catchy pop songs. But even when I play like these old tunes and the chord sequences, and there was something there that is just not there when you say, I'm going to program a computer to like find me the best chord sequence possible, because the computer is always going to say, yeah, I know this chord sequence because it worked, you know, thousands and thousands of times, and so many songs that are famous use this chord sequence, but they've already been done, these songs. Sure. So unless you feed something into the computer, into the algorithm, into the artificial intelligence, which is unique, then you're just going to get the same thing, which, why would anyone listen, you know, to like Let It Be for the thousandth time, but without any of the Beatles, you know, idiosyncrasies or what makes them unique and personal, and the backing vocals and whatever. It's just, you just got to write a song that has the chord sequence of Let It Be, and that can be like 100 different songs that are famous throughout history, but your song is going to be boring as shit, and obviously it's going to be catchy because it builds on something that you already kind of know instinctively and have heard a lot of times. But if there's not this little, and that's why I was saying before, even mistakes, even like, you know, someone doing that, but then all of a sudden the voice breaks, or you know, you go to the wrong chord and then you play major instead of minor. And when you listen to it for the first time, and that's also interesting with like people like Bowie, when you listen to them for the first time or you discover a new song, it's difficult. You're like, what is he doing? This is so strange.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and you've got like a sort of natural reaction where they're like, oh, it shouldn't be like this. this is not how it's supposed to go. The song should not go from major to minor and then into a whole completely different chord sequence, which has. But then, when you listen to the song over and over and over again, these are precisely the parts that you're gonna love. These are the parts that are
so
gonna,
unique,
have like a really deep connection within yourself. Whereas this, as you said, this formatted pop stuff, it's got to be very catchy on the first listening, second, third, and you're gonna grow so tired of it because it's so repetitive and yeah, it's not interesting, it's not unique, and it's not.
Do you listen to pop?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not averse to pop music, but it has to have, again, some kind of like individuality. It can't be, like, if I feel like someone purposely designed this song to catch my attention and to grab me and to have it and play in my head for the next 2 weeks, then chances are it's gonna be stuck in my head for the next 2 weeks because it's catchy. And then I'm gonna really, really grow so tired of it that I will hate the song. I won't be able to listen to it. So it's the opposite effect of something weird happening where you're like at first a bit skeptical and you're like, oh, what is this? And then you come to love it. I mean, it's like people. I think it's the same with,
If someone is weird to you, you get
no,
more
no.
connected to them?
I mean, like because you have all these top models that are perfect. They are like perfect in every single aspect. I mean, they're also Photoshop, but it's something different.
Yeah.
But they're bland. They're not real humans because, like, what you love about someone is also the flaws. It's also like the imperfections. And who wants to live with like a doll? That's
Yeah, it's not
basically
interesting. Yeah.
that's basically what you do, and it's the same with music. Who wants to listen to a song that is perfect? No one. Like,
I don't agree with you.
huh?
There are many songs that are perfect. I give you the most obvious example, Bruno Mars.
Yeah,
He's one of the most insane performances, singers, writers. He got this album, 24 Karat.
yeah,
It's an amazing album. I don't know if you listen to that.
yeah. I do.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, I like him.
Do you
I
think it's
like.
perfect songs, or you think there is some mistakes there? Because for me, everything is perfect. The sound, the production, the instruments, the performances.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Bruno Mars is like a completely, like, in the discussion we were having, this is a completely different category because he's like a true musician, like he's a multi-instrumentalist and he's got like an amazing voice.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work and he's a great performer, and it's not just someone that was built up or pushed up like artificially. There was already this substance, and obviously, I mean, I wouldn't listen to his albums like on a weekly basis, or they don't touch me in the same way that songs would by people like Bob Dylan or stuff, because the message is a bit too polished for me. But still, I can appreciate the musical quality of what he's doing, and I
Yeah.
mean, like Uptown Funk.
Oh yeah,
What a
this is
song!
great.
What a song! And I mean, also that's not a usual chord progression. That's not something easy. It's not, it's not someone who sat down and he knows 4 chords and he just went like, yeah, these 4 chords are fine, and we just do it like that. There's a lot of variety in it, and so that's why I was saying it's not. We don't live in a society where we only hear shit music. We do hear good music, but it could be so much more of that. What I'm saying is the problem is not the songwriting or the talent or the output, the creative output. It's how this is channeled. Like, who gets to listen to what. This is, to me, is the main problem, because we still have enough amazing artists in every single genre that can blow your mind today. And I'm not someone who's like, oh, like music stopped in the 70s, when. I mean, it is obviously the best decade ever
Yeah,
for
70s
music,
stuff.
but and also because people didn't care as much. They, like, the Beatles are the best example. They were just doing their thing. I mean, there was this huge frenzy and there was huge marketing efforts, and it was all like it was a system of like, again, there was marketing involved, and there were people who knew exactly how to exploit and make money out of it. But the Beatles themselves, the individuals, the songwriters, they didn't give a shit about like what anyone expected of them. And same with Dylan and Cohen.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't be like sitting there and saying like, what would my audience want to hear next? They were just like, this is what I want to say, and I'm going to say it in my own way. And I think that today, again, because like the boundaries between artistic and commercial have disappeared, I think it's more difficult for an artist to have this sort of like creative isolation where they can say, I'm doing whatever I want.
Yeah, I agree about this. I hope that it's not stopped recording. Let's see what's going on. Oh, it's still going on. Who do you think is a bad artist today? Someone who is really famous? And who do you think is a bad artist? Someone who is really famous today? And you think their music is not worthy to be there?
Oh,
Even though it's not nice to say names.
No, yeah.
But
no.
if they're really mainstream, they will forgive us.
Yeah, I mean that's also the difficult part, because like you don't want to take it away from people who truly enjoy that music, you know, in the same way that you're not gonna go up, as we like the example we mentioned earlier, you're not gonna go into McDonald's and tell people to eat healthy food. Like, no, that's what I mean. It's people, you know, like everyone has to make up their minds. I just think that unfortunately, in the same way that people get sick when they eat shitty food like McDonald's, which has been disastrous for like public health, in the same way there's a sort of like dumbing down of cultural awareness within general society. And I don't know how exactly you can address that, but it's not by telling people who are genuinely in awe of like Taylor Swift that Taylor Swift is shit. You know, I wouldn't tell that to people, because if they enjoy her music, then who am I to tell them otherwise? But the fact is, there are some criteria in terms of like, it's very difficult because music is subjective. So what is good music, what is bad music? But there are some people, in my opinion, which is kind of radical, but who are not really apt, or they're not you know, if you can't play an instrument, if you can barely sing, if what you do is written by others, these are all criteria where I would say, like, if I have an artist like that in front of me, then I would say like, yeah, you're not good, because none of the things that really matter within the creative process you have managed to make your own, because you were so busy promoting yourself or being whatever, you know. But yeah, I have a couple of artists which I dislike with a passion. But I don't think it's their fault. I think, you know, it's more who put them in that position, and why are people willing to put up with it and spend money on these kinds of artists.
I think the marketplace, in the end, it's the ultimate judge. The marketplace will decide if you're good or not. The ones who pay you the money in the end. So if Taylor Swift, I don't personally listen to her music. I have a lot of respect to her, because I know she had a really crazy shit with owning her own music. So for this I really respect her. I know she works with also really talented producers. So there is a reason why she's there. You know. Also another example is Britney Spears. She is a great example for that. Her first hit was "Hit Me Baby One More Time." I think the only thing that she was involved is just recording her voices and dancing afterwards. That's it. That's the whole thing. Everyone else basically did everything for her. So the song was already written. The video, I'm pretty sure she had the best video people to take the video and to edit and to get the concepts and everything. Also the people who are taking care of her tour. So she was just there creating the money, basically. And every time we think about Britney Spears, we just think about her. And we don't think about all those people who actually make it happen.
Yeah, unless because I mean that's the other difficulties, because we're both musicians and pretty like involved in like the creative process and analyzing what is happening. Most of the people are just passive listeners. They just enjoy music.
Yeah.
In the same way, again, I really like the comparison with McDonald's, like with food. Like some people cook, and you don't need to be like a chef in order to realize, okay, what they're serving me at Subways or McDonald's, that's just not food, because what went into it is just, you know, like there was no love, there was no thought, there was no care. It was just like, you know, yeah, it's a mass produced whatever, like sustenance. And I mean, like Britney Spears, Max Martin, he's, you know, like, you have to respect the songwriting. This is amazing. It is amazing songwriting. The motivation behind it is problematic. And that's where, like, my
What do you
own...
mean the motivation behind it? To write it for her so it can be a
Exactly.
mass-produced
And
song?
and that's why I'm saying, like, in my case, like, the only way I finally decide whether I like someone or not, or whether I despise them, because it can be very quick. Like, you know, I've some guilty pleasure. Like, I love Robbie Williams. You know,
It's
it's
great.
really, yeah, it's really pop. Still, I kind of like him. And other people that, you know, objectively kind of do the same, I hate with a vengeance, and I don't know why. But I think when I make up my mind about an artist, or about like how they are produced and what is behind it, it's usually the motivation. Like if I have someone, again, Tin Pan Alley, these were professional songwriters sitting in a building all day writing songs for others.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is when these people do it, and they do it for the sole purpose of making money. They say, like, how can I get the most money out of this song? Because then they're going to dumb it down, and then they're going to do exactly what McDonald's does. They're going to say, how can I streamline the production? How can I be efficient enough to make the most money out of it? It doesn't mean that you can't have a burger. A burger's nice, but, you know, there's this whole spectrum, and then everyone has to decide for themselves. I just... Usually when I get pissed off with an artist, it's when I get the feeling that I'm being manipulated. And I see someone who has obviously no talent.
As a listener.
Yeah, as a listener.
Right.
Who's been pushed into that position. And also I can't relate to anything within the music. And I mean, like, for example, the example of Robbie Williams I gave, I love his lyrics. He didn't write the music. His lyrics are great, and he's a great performer. So I'm always going to be on board, and the songs are amazingly written, you know. And there are other artists, and I mean, like, the first rock and roll started with Elvis. Elvis was the best example of someone who had the best songwriters in the country just feeding him a constant stream of amazing tunes. And it wasn't, I mean, but then there was his voice, there was his personality, there was his, you know, there was something about him that caught people's attention. But still, I'm not an Elvis fan. I can appreciate his voice, I can appreciate his performances, I can appreciate the mythology surrounding him and what he's done to influence the music history. But if you ask me who are the most influential artists in terms of like music history, I wouldn't say Elvis, because he was not a songwriter, and he was kind of like the first mass product in the music industry. So I don't know. It's a fine line. Sometimes I listen to people, or I tell other people I like them, and they're like, "What? How can you like her or him?" And I'm like, I don't know. It's just something about you know. It's like Sia. I love Sia.
She's amazing, Sia. Yeah.
She's got, like, her voice is great, and she also she writes her songs herself. And a lot of people are like, no, that's too poppy, too mainstream. And I don't care. I don't care, because her voice touches me in a way that is enough. And obviously I know what kind of machinery there's behind, and kind of people pushing her, and you don't get to a level like that without that. But I can still relate to her music, and I think that's the most important part of, like, establishing a connection from an audience towards an artist.
Yeah, she's very authentic, Sia. I really like it about her. She's very, very authentic, and she's been through a lot of shit in her life. And you can hear it in the music as well. She used to do this crazy jazz. Have you heard her early stuff before she
No.
became a famous pop artist? She used to make acid jazz, really weird stuff, complex jazzy music, and she's very talented.
Yeah, she's a again, and she's one of these examples where they take someone really talented and kind of mold her into the mainstream thing.
Yeah, you think so?
But yeah, obviously, I mean, like the songs she got famous with, they're like the standard pop that you would expect. But again, her voice and her personality just comes through. Like even if the production is a bit easy, and you know, you're like, okay, this has been done before and it's not very original, but she comes through. And I don't have that with a lot of the other artists that are hyped at the moment or who are on the top of the. Usually I listen to them, I can't understand for the life of me why anyone would want to listen to that.
Yeah, there are some are like that, but still are successful. Like I think it's mostly with rap today. What is his name? Travis.
Scott?
Yeah.
I've never listened to it.
I really don't understand the music. I try to listen to, but I cannot argue with the fact that he brings a lot of people to concerts.
Yeah.
And I cannot argue with the fact that they have millions of people who are following him. But I just don't seem to get the music.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's difficult, because it's, again, even with the older examples, I have bands that are like, you know, I don't know if I can say that on a musical podcast, but like The Doors and Led Zeppelin, then nothing happens. I know it's good music, and I know
You don't like Led Zeppelin? You don't feel
No, it's not
anything?
that I don't like them. I appreciate them, and I can, like, when I listen to them, I'm like, oh yeah, but there's no emotion. They don't trigger anything within me.
Interesting.
It's just something, and I know that this is subjective, and it's something on my part where I am unable to connect, because they are, again, there's so many people who like connected to their music, and so I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the beauty of music, because
Exactly.
you have the same guy playing, and you have one person who's gonna be like completely in awe, and the other's gonna be like, I don't know about this. And that's why, again, these objective criteria are also important to me when I try and make up my mind about an artist. It's like, because, like, for example, jazz, like experimental jazz, is something that again, I don't get any emotional connection with, but still, I know, like the art, like the craft of it is amazing, and I can tell that it's these are really good musicians, and I can respect them for that. The fact that nothing happens within me emotionally has nothing to do with the quality of what they're
definitely.
offering. It's just the subjective nature of music, that someone else is going to be blown away by that, and I'm just going to sit there and be there. I know I should be in awe. I know I should be, you know, be completely frantic, but it's not happening.
It's a weird feeling to have.
Yeah.
I have it with the band Tool. You know Tool?
Hmm?
Tool, the band.
Tool?
Yeah.
No.
They play really heavy music. And they're very famous. A lot of people really love them, but I just cannot listen to them. It's boring for me.
Yeah.
And it feels like that, you know, people saying, oh, they're so incredible, they're so amazing. And I'm sitting there and I don't understand.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same with Bob Dylan. Like, so many people tell me they can't stand his voice. They hate it passionately. And with me, it was straight away. Like, the first time I heard his voice, I was like, what the fuck? It just triggered something in me. But objectively, I know that he's not a good singer. He's just like,
He's a really bad singer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
He's a good songwriter.
I mean, like, even because now, I mean, now it's different, because like with a certain age and stuff. But even when he was singing in the 60s, when, like, let's say he was on the peak of his vocal abilities, there's still a lot of people where, like, or still when they're listening to the records, are like, what is this? Like, I can't stand this voice. And with me, it was instantly, I got hooked by this voice. And in the same way, opposite way, people love Neil Young. I can't stand his voice. Like, it really creeps me out. Like, it, you know?
He's boring
But-
for me as well.
Huh?
He's also boring for me, Neil Young.
Yeah, but it's not even about, because I appreciate his music. It's more about his vocals, because both Dylan and Neil Young are not what you would call precise singers. They're like kind of off, or they're not spot on tight
Yeah,
on
they're more songwriters than performers. They write really good songs, but the way they perform it,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
Bob Dylan, when I see footage of him in his 60s, even performing, I'm blown away. There's something happening deep inside, but I know it's subjective, and I know my dislike of Neil Young and his voice is also subjective.
yeah,
Because why would I like the one that is slightly off key and slightly weird in his way of singing and dislike the other? It doesn't make sense, because both, in a sort of like musical theory sense, both are like borderline in terms of like singing technique. But why does the one singing technique catch me in a such a profound way, and the other one just turn me off? That's not objective. That's not music science. That's just
no, it's live.
hugely personal. It's
Yeah,
just like,
and there is no answer for that.
no, there's not.
It's just the
And
way it happens.
it's the beauty of music, and that's what makes it
Yeah,
difficult to judge even like huge acts today that are hugely popular and successful, because you always have to be aware of like your subjective side, because you know, some people are gonna piss me off, and some people are gonna straight away catch me, and it's not always rational. It's just like,
yeah. Also, when people are together in mass, there is different behavior to a group of people than individual. So I would say if you go to a Travis Scott concert, and probably there are maybe 50,000 people there, how many people do you think are there just because they want to be cool? Because everyone goes to his concerts. You know, maybe most of the class goes to the concert and you just want to join them or she wants to join them.
yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's a whole discussion we were having as well. Why do people eat at McDonald's? Because it's convenient. Because it's their friends are going to McDonald's. Because it's,
it's
you
cool
know,
maybe to be
it's
there.
a like pleasant taste. But in the end, you know, if you eat your whole life at McDonald's, then chances are you're not going to be a very balanced and a happy person, because objectively, what you put into your body has not been tailored for your health or your well-being. It has been tailored to like economic needs and purposes. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I get your mind more. In music, there is great responsibility for artists to put the right, not the right, I don't like this word, but empowering messages for the people who are listening to them.
well, I mean that's the other. I mean, because there's musically, and then there's the parts of the lyrics, and I have to admit that I'm harsher with the way lyrics are written today than I am with the music.
Yeah,
And I feel like it's become very rare to have people that have an actual message and that actually are able to bring it across. And I'm someone who's really attached to like the message of a song and what you want to say. Also politically, I don't like. I like to take into account like what is happening in the outside world and politics and stuff, which some people shy away from completely. And songs should just only be about love and breakups and stuff like that.
and drugs.
Yeah, I've never written a love song, so it's just a whole dimension that is closed off to me. Like
For
this,
what reason you don't
I
write
don't
love
know.
songs?
I
You
don't know.
just don't feel inspired?
Yeah, it's never interested me. I feel like everything's been said. Every rhyme there is about love has been done. And there are some amazing love songs. I mean, there are some massive songs that I also enjoy playing. That's why I enjoy playing covers, because I get to sing like these kinds of things that I wouldn't usually address in my own music. But yeah, I mean, rap music, hip hop was when it started and up to like a certain point was for me the successor of this whole like we have a message and we take position and stuff, but then it's been completely watered down and just perverted by what is now I don't even know what you call it. I don't even think like it's hip hop or rap anymore. It's just something. I don't know what it is.
Copy
Like
paste music.
copy paste music, but in a sort of very, yeah, again, very bland way, and it's with auto tunes and just terrible flow and terrible lyrics.
Yeah.
And just it's so nondescript and there's nothing in there that would remotely interest me. Whereas if I mean, obviously I'm not a rapper, and it's a whole different culture. But when I listen to like the old school hip hop or Eminem or something like that, it's amazing. Like the density and the power of the message,
Yes.
even if it's not political, because Eminem can rap about his own problems and his own problematic relations to his wife and mother and whatever. But the sincerity and the rawness of it, that's something that, subjectively, I'm caught by that. Whereas if I listen today to like these kinds of like pseudo gangster, because they're not even gangster rappers. I don't know what they are. Like seriously, it intrigues me because there's nothing left of anything. It's like it's not even commercial enough to be interesting. It's not. There's no political message. There's no. Yeah, it's just bland. Just
It's just there. Yeah. Yeah. We are living in a very strange world where you have a lot of access to a lot of things very cheaply, very fast, and you can do a lot of things, and it doesn't serve us in the long run
yeah, but I
in a way
mean,
that is satisfying for us. So, yeah, it's dumbing us down. It's degrading us as humans, I would say.
it's dumbing us down. And I mean, the interesting thing is like, and it's also scary because people have been thinking so long about censorship and how to prevent messages getting out, and they found a way. And the way is not to suppress the messages or the people who have a message or who have a position. It's just to swamp them with noise. And that's what happened today. And I
Yeah.
think in a way, we're less political today as a society in terms of cultural output than we've ever been. Because
Yeah, the government is not so strong today. It's all
but
personalized. Everything is
they don't
customized.
need to be strong. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like in the like let's say in the 60s and 70s, you wrote about something like a controversial topic or sexuality or racism or politics or whatever. You would get censored. You would have someone at the BBC saying, I'm not playing this song, because there's a sexual reference or because he's mentioning, racial or civil rights or whatever. And today, you don't need that kind of, because no one gives a shit. You can't be controversial anyway, because everyone is controversial and everyone is swearing and trying to shock the audience. So in the end, the effect is the same as if you actually suppress the stuff, because you're not suppressing it, but no one's listening to it.
yeah. The
Like,
noise got louder, basically.
hmm?
The noise, it's more
Yeah,
louder.
yeah, it's louder than the
Mm.
silence that you impose on people and on the society.
And what do you think artists can do in order to be louder than this noise that is going on?
I
How
don't
can
know.
someone who is really talented with good music, how can they be out there and somehow overcome all this noise?
I have no idea. If I knew. um, I don't know, but I mean, again, it's again this aspect of motivation. Like, what is your motivation? Obviously, you want to be heard, but again, what is the price? And if, like, let's say, if I'm interested in having songs with a message and a political dimension, but if in order to achieve my goal, if my goal is to be famous or a lot of people are listening to the music, which is legitimate because, like, if I have a message, I want as many people to listen
Yeah.
as I can. But if in order to fulfill that, I dumb down my message or I change my way of expressing myself, then I will have lost in any case, because yeah, I will make some money and probably I will profit of it, but that my original motivation as an artist, it's gone. Because I decided that in order to be heard, I need to somehow express myself differently.
I don't necessarily also agree on that. I think today what will make someone more noticed than other person is frequency. How many times they are showing up in someone's attention, which either can be on the phone, social medias, YouTube's, offline, if you see posters, if you see concerts of them. This is my theory, and this is what I'm trying to run right now, basically. So I have no results to show. We can listen to this podcast in the year, and we'll see if this podcast was telling the truth. But what my strategy is right now, I'm aiming to do, let's say, 2 podcasts a week, and to post a lot of AI photos of Son of a Pigeon. And just by that, it can generate some attention. But then also to post a lot of reels as well from the podcast, so it will also bring some attention. And if everything goes well and I keep on doing that for 1 year consistently in this kind of frequency, I think there is good chance that without changing my music or my message, I will get to more people. And it's also, I think it's also how we manage money and how we leverage the money. Because today everything is becoming either way more expensive because there is inflation that it's really skyrocketing in the last 12 years. But then on the other hand, everything is getting cheaper, right? So now instead of me actually paying someone to sit down on their ass 10 hours to make some art, I can pay the fraction of the price and I can generate thousands of them in the same time.
Exactly. But that's the thing. You're not going to be the only one. So you're going to produce thousands of images, and thousands of people are going to produce thousands of images.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get your images to resonate with people? And that's again the whole discussion we were having. I don't think it's a yes or no. I don't think it's black or white. I think it's a spectrum, and I think there's no answer or recipe how it's going to work.
Yes,
It's
but
more-
once you do the volume, you get more information about what is working, what is not working.
Yeah, exactly. But the question is, how do you get to the volume? And again, that's a motivational thing. If you say my aim is for my podcast to be heard by as many people as possible, and in order to do that, I'm willing to compromise on my message and on what I'm actually trying to tell the people, then I think you will lose out eventually, because yeah, you might get the audience that you want or not, because again, there's no recipe, so it might not even work. But at the end, what you set out to do was what we're doing now. You want to talk about music. You want to have in-depth conversations. But if you get to a level where someone tells you, yeah, I can get you a huge audience, but your interviews are too tedious. They're too like, why do you talk about stuff like people don't want to hear about that? Why don't you talk about something lighter? And why don't you make it shorter? And why don't you make it in that way? And why don't you invite, I don't know, like the new Britney Spears over and
Bring
stuff?
her.
Yeah. and that's what I mean. These are like tiny decisions you're gonna take on your way to where you're going, and this is the same for every artist that publishes music and wants to continue on that road.
Yeah.
You make shitloads of decisions on a daily basis where you say, this is acceptable to me, this is not.
Yes.
And if you compromise too much, which is what has been happening a lot over the last years with many artists, then yeah, you're going to have a huge audience and you may be very successful, but in the end, what you've produced hasn't added any value to the discussion or to the overall state of the cultural output
Yeah.
that you were aiming
I
for.
completely agree with that. Yeah, the first thing is the values that we have. This is like our sail. If our values are bad, then the sail will not catch the wind, because the wind is blowing on everyone. We all have the same opportunity.
But
We're all humans.
But I mean, it's not bad or good, because I think again there's it's just it needs to be in tune with your convictions. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
because if you say bad or good, that like what is bad for someone is going to be good for another one. Like someone's going to say political messages are not my thing. That's not good or bad. That's just how that person is, how the artist is.
Yeah.
And I don't like, if people write love songs, I'm not going to spit at them and say like, why are you talking about irrelevant stuff? On the contrary, I love that other people write love songs and that I can write like more political songs because we need the whole diversity of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
But if I see, and that's again, I always come back to this motivational thing. If I see someone writing a love song, like a cheesy love song, with the motivation, oh, because this is going to catch people's attention, then I'm going to, be very critical of that person, because I'm going to say, like, you're not being honest with yourself or with your audience. You're just adding to the noise because you want to get heard. But in itself, the art that you make, I don't, except in very extreme examples, I don't think it can be good or bad. It's just, we're all human, and every human has a different way of expressing themselves. And so it's kind of...
Yeah. What I meant, there is no good and bad. It's the values that you set in the beginning. For me, for example, in the podcast, the most strong value that I have is there is no time limit. There is no subject that I want to talk about specifically, and I give 4 songs to every artist to play if they want. I had podcasts where people just brought their own laptop and they start to play the song from the minute it was conceived by a random jam session they had, and how they developed it slowly until the final song. And it's been like 2 hours of just going deep. And I love this stuff, and I know a lot of people can resonate with that. Even if one person listens to this song and it inspires them to create something, to make their production better, to be more creative, I did my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you never know how it's going to affect people. And once I'm sticking to those values, it doesn't matter who will offer me as much money as they want. If someone wants to offer me money, probably have something they want. And probably they want to offer me less money than it's actually worth, because that's the only thing that you can make profit with, right? You find something that is got a lot of value, but the price is relatively low. And if the price is not so low, then you offer something lower and you try to give a better offer. So with this thing that if someone wants to pay me money for the podcast, they must do it in my own terms. Otherwise, I don't want your money.
Yeah, but it's you have a a harsh road in front of you, because I mean, like, yeah, it's again, that's what all we talked about, is that the system is made in a way that takes away a lot of agency from you and creative people. So it's a tricky one. I mean, we were talking before about like eventim and artists and booking,
Yeah.
and it's not easy. It is really not easy. I think maybe it used to be easier back in the days where, you would focus mostly on what you're doing and the content and what you want to say, and then you would give it over to people who would take care of like having it promoted and marketed. And it's not that anymore. It's like artists have become the whole package. They have to do
Yeah.
everything.
I think it's because everything got more cheaper.
I definitely think that the fact that you can record, like the technological evolution of what happened with like recording material and home studios and stuff, that had a huge influence.
Yes.
Because it meant that everyone...
The
and also
digitalization of music
Yeah.
made everything cheaper.
And also filming, obviously, now you can do like, yeah, you can practically do what used to be the domain of labels and recording studios. Now you can do yourself, but doesn't necessarily mean that the output is great. It can be great, but it can also be just a surplus of information and content that just drowns out any message or any meaning that you would want to give to it.
Yeah, also back then, in the 60s, 50s, you had like this company would put this effort to create a great music studio. And now everyone can record in their own bedrooms. So
Yeah.
the quality is less good to begin with. I mean, it's more affordable for sure, but when you put a lot of money into one studio that serves it the purpose of recording music in the best way possible, you will get great results.
I don't know. I'm not completely sure I agree, because like, again, there's no recipe and there's no rule, because like you have someone like Bon Iver recording his first album in like a cabin, like in the woods, and it's a fucking masterpiece.
What year was it?
Huh?
What year?
I don't know. It was like early 2000s, something like that.
All right. I'm talking about more 60s,
Yeah, yeah,
70s,
but
where it was
that's
not
why I'm
so.
saying like there's no, because you would assume that when you have a big studio and you have lots of money that obviously the quality is better, but that's not even necessarily true. It depends on what you want to do. Um,
It's not necessary that the quality will be better, but what I'm saying is now if you take 10 people who make music, they all have the same chance of recording the music in good quality.
yeah,
But if you bring it 50, 60 years back, then not everyone have the same chance to step into a music studio. And also
yeah,
right now, I go and I record myself. I don't need any producer. I don't need any sound engineer. I don't need any mixing engineer. If I want to record 40 years ago, I must have those stuff.
yeah, exactly. And so I mean that's also like back in the days when you went into the studio, you were ready. Like you knew
Yeah.
exactly what you wanted and what you wanted to say. And today the danger is that any thought, any fragment, any piece of creative output can be recorded straight away and published straight away and put out into the vast ocean
Of noise.
of noise
Digital noise.
and content. Yeah, yeah. So it's, but again, that's also the responsibility, like individual responsibility of like, I wouldn't put out a song that is half finished. I wouldn't put out a song where I didn't check any, like every last word, in order to make sure that it's exactly what I wanted to say and it's exactly right. This is how demanding I am towards myself as an artist, and this is, I think, the way that people should go about it. Like if I want to say something, is it worth people hearing it?
Yeah.
And this is where I was telling you before, where I think that the role of TV and these whole like celebrity music shows, where X Factor and where you discover new people, have done terrible damage, because they have basically convinced a huge part of the population it doesn't really matter if you're any good or if you practiced or if you have anything to say. The most important thing is to get on stage and be noticed, and that everyone is an artist. And I don't believe that. I truly do not agree with that statement that everyone's an artist, or at least not everyone's a musician. Maybe you have different ways of expressing and different art forms. And I also think that some people they're not artists. It's something else. They're facilitators for like a cultural exchange, or they are just human, which is, it's fine. And not everyone needs to be artistically active. But the problem is that a lot of people are convinced that as soon as they can like barely sing and play a chord on the guitar, then they should get on stage and share it with the world. Which, like, for example, I'm a terrible painter. Like, I can't paint for shit. Like, I can't draw anything. And it would never occur to me to say, like, I'm gonna paint and have an exhibition,
But
because
what if people buy?
Huh?
What if people buy?
Yeah, but in order for people to buy it, I would first have to present it, and that's the first step. That's like a sort of I don't know what the word is, sort of modesty, where I say like, I'm not a painter, I'm not good at it, I haven't practiced it. I'm not gonna inflict that on anyone. I'm not gonna tell people, hey, look at my paintings, because I know this shit. And for some reason in music, it's different. It's like the people, they. Again, I don't know what happens on an individual level, or their families and friends. Why is no one telling them, you're a really nice guy or a really nice girl, and you have a lot to offer, but you're not a singer and you're not a musician. You're just not good at it.
I do believe everyone have a chance to prove themselves, for sure. I don't think we can say to someone you're not so good. I think those who are not good, they know it already.
No, I completely disagree. And
They
that's,
know it because they don't get as much as money as they want from making music. They don't get as much as gigs as they want. They don't get as much as people to the concerts.
no, they are. Unfortunately, I have to completely disagree with you.
Yeah?
And I think, again, coming back to this.
You think this is not a way to know if you're good or not good?
No, No, if it was, then everyone who's famous and successful would be amazing musicians, and everyone who's not would be shit, and it's not true. I've like literally, that's why I was telling you, I see people
Do you know
perform.
great musicians that don't bring people who
Yeah,
are
yeah.
phenomenal in their
Yeah,
instruments?
phenomenal.
And no one comes to their
I
concerts.
can like literally in Berlin, I've 10 different projects which I could talk to you about at length that are on par with anything you can hear on the radio and any established bands I know, and they're not making it, and it's not because they're not talented. No
So why
way.
they're not making it? How it's possible if they're so good that they don't create a
Because
fan
they
base?
don't have, again, they don't have the skills to sell themselves. They don't have the personality to sell themselves. They maybe they're not interested in selling themselves. Maybe they're too focused on their music. I don't know. It's a variety of reasons, but in the same way that some really untalented people make it, some really talented people don't, and it has nothing to do with the quality um, of what they're doing. And again, I mean, it's a bit radical to say like to like tell people you're no good, but the fact of the matter is that, and again, I'm coming back to this idea of like these talent shows and stuff, because the really perverse aspect of it was that sometimes they would pick people because they are shit, because they can't sing, or because they
Yeah,
are
it gives a good
embarrassing,
rating.
and
Yeah.
it's good ratings, and that's what I'm saying. And so you have, I think, I see the reflection of that, and I mean, on a local level at open mics and jam sessions and stuff, where you have people coming up on stage, exposing themselves, that have absolutely no inclination, or let's be harsh, have no talent for this.
Yeah.
And I mean, and again, and also they may probably don't practice and have never like really tried to like kind of master the, because it's a craft. Like music is a craft, like every art form. It needs to be practiced, it needs to be honed. And yes, it's very harsh to say that, to tell a person who has the courage to go on stage and sing, but also if it's like like a cringeworthy spectacle of someone, um, not being able to perform and still doing it week after week, and trying, because of this sort of like weird notion that everyone's an artist and everyone's a singer and everyone's a musician deep down inside, which has been, which has been pushed by these TV shows where the most unlikely person would all of a sudden become famous overnight because, yeah,
Yeah, it's a great idea.
because it helps the ratings. But in the end, it's,
Winning the lottery.
again, it's a question of modesty. Like I wouldn't claim to be a painter because I'm not, and I don't have any talent for it, and I could probably work my whole life trying to address it, and it would still be terrible. And it's just, that's how it is. Like I'm not a painter.
Yeah, you accepted the fate.
Why would I try to be one? And it's the same with music. And just because music is something that people maybe do more naturally, or you sing in your shower and then you think like, oh, this is good. But then there should be some, safeguards like within yourself saying like, is it really good? And then your friends, do you think I'm good? Your family, do you think I should go on stage? And then just these people having the honesty to tell you, no, I don't think this is for you. There's plenty of other stuff that you can do, or art forms that you can explore, but music is not one of them. And I think if we manage to do that, then that would take away a lot of the noise.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, because I think a big part of what we are describing and the noise and what is drowning out the good music and a good craft is stuff that is done by people who have absolutely no connection to music. But that's a very kind of controversial.
I think let's wrap it as well. That's whole subject. I think just to finish it, I think there is a lot of craft going on with those who are really successful with music. They might not have the craft of making good songs, but for sure they have craft of promotions and the craft of management and getting the right people to be part of this project. And I still think that the market is the one who makes the decision in the end. If people are buying the artist album, if they go to see this film, if they eat in this restaurant, for whatever reason it will be, because we cannot argue that McDonald's is not. It's McDonald's. It's everywhere. There is
Yeah,
no
but
argue about it.
yeah, but that's exactly the point. That's
yeah,
what
there
you're
is something
saying.
good about it. It's going on.
Yeah,
If you take the good stuff and you put good burgers, then you have a winning product.
yeah, but I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. That there's a craft behind McDonald's as well. It's like amazing marketing. It's an amazing business model that has established itself, and you have to accept that. You can't just say it's just shit from A to Z, because I mean, it's impressive how they kind of like grown and how they become a part of our culture. But at the same time, you can still be critical about the implications and the consequences of what they are actually offering. And it's the same with music.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I admire, like, someone who makes it to the top stage of the music industry, they obviously gonna have some sort of talent. They're obviously going to be very good at networking, surrounding themselves with the right people, selling themselves, whatever, or even performing. But it's still not enough for me individually as a listener. This is where I make up my mind, and I say, like, I enjoy that person, or I can look over the flaws of that person in terms of like how they're singing or how they're writing or they're not writing their songs. But at the end of the day, I as a listener make up my mind about someone, and if the only assets and the only talent they show is in getting to where they are, that's admirable, and you can respect that. But it's, as a musician or as a listener, this is not enough for me. So I'm always gonna say, like,
Yeah,
no.
the final product in the end of all this funnel needs to be good. It needs to be something that will move some emotions.
But yeah, as you say,
Yeah.
it's a time will tell, and it's probably not going to happen in 10 years or 20 years.
What do you think is the future of music now with the AI that's going crazy?
Again, I'm seriously highly unconcerned about AI.
But what do you think the future will be with that? Have you seen all these crazy AI covers?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I've seen like the discussions have gone crazy, and they're mostly pushed by people who have a right to be scared, because what they were doing before AI arrived is so similar in terms of like individuality and uniqueness, so similar to what an AI would do, that they're scared, because
They just do it faster, the AI.
they do it faster, more efficiently, and probably even better, slightly. But in terms of like true musicians and true artists, like I'm like, if you really are a true, like, if you really express yourself in an authentic and honest manner, then you're not worried about AI. The only implications you're worried about is pragmatically, okay, is this going to mean there's even going to be even more songs out and more of a hurdle to cross in order to get heard? But to be honest, it couldn't get, like, I don't think it can get any worse than it is today in terms of
Have you heard AI music covers?
I haven't listened to the few examples that were very prominent. I haven't listened to them.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. What really blew my mind was it was two songs. One of them is Mr. Crab from SpongeBob singing Billie Jean.
Yeah.
It was really good. And then there was also some covers of Freddie Mercury singing some songs, and Kurt Cobain. There was a Kurt Cobain doing Creep.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is just the beginning. And, you know, in the end of Scream, when she says, she run, 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 and then you hear Kurt Cobain screams with his signature voice. It was very emotional for me to listen to that. And it felt like he really singing there, but it's not him. So now let's take Let It Be from the Beatles. And imagine you can put any musician that you want to put there. So you will hear it. Let's say it's Bob Dylan singing that. If you would have all the attributes of Bob Dylan, would you like to listen to a song like that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the question, like, what is more important? Is it like the effect the music has on the listeners, or the intention of the artist? I think both are relevant. So if I get touched by a piece of AI music, that's fine. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Would it be something you would listen to Bob Dylan singing other? other
I
songs?
probably grow tired of it pretty quickly. I mean, it's funny. It's like FaceTime, like not FaceTime, like Face Mash, like all these apps where you can make yourself older, and it's really funny, or these gifs
Yeah.
or whatever. You have fun for like 5 minutes, and then you're like, this has no substance. Like it has no relevance. Like Bob Dylan singing "Let It Be," how is that relevant? You know? Then I just
How
listen.
it's not relevant. It's something that never happened before, and now you have the option to create it, even with the artist that's already dead.
Yeah, but I mean, again, these artists are not, they're, you know, they are what they are because they are hugely complex, because they're unfathomable in a
Yeah.
in a certain sense. So trying to apply an algorithm or like a computer simulation on these people, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll listen to the Let It Be version of Bob Dylan and I'll be blown away and it'll be my new favorite song. But I seriously doubt it, because I know Let It Be, I know Bob Dylan. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You're kind of intrigued. What would it sound like? But it's not something I would look forward to and listen to every night. I want to listen to people who surprise me. I want to be surprised. And my major issue with AI is that I'm not sure it will be able to surprise me in a way that a human being can. Because a human being is going to be influenced by such a variety of factors and elements and personality that he's going to do something which is unexpected and which is going to catch me in a way that an AI would not. Because an AI will be programmed to do the most efficient thing or to do what it has been programmed to do. So if you tell an AI, please take Bob Dylan and have him sing Let It Be, then you're going to have Bob Dylan singing Let It Be. But if Bob Dylan actually sang Let It Be, maybe because he's had a shitty day, or maybe because he's Bob Dylan, he's just going to do something completely unexpected where you might not even recognize him as being Bob Dylan. You'd be like, oh, he will speak Let It Be, you know, like
Yeah, it's
he will
also
not,
a
he will not sing it,
possibility.
he will just speak it. And that will be the interesting part, because he is an artist, he is someone who's made a choice and who's in the moment and who's human. And I don't think that AI will ever be able to compete with that.
I don't know.
But
So far with my experience, man, it blows my mind
yeah,
every time. Every time it blows my mind. It's so powerful. It's like having an atom bomb. That's how I
yeah,
see it. And this is just the beginning, you know. ChatGPT got really big in Christmas, man. It's not even half a year, and it's
yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's because you were asking about the future of the music industry, and maybe it's just a question about the future in general. Maybe this is the future. Maybe we have, like, to be very pessimistic, maybe we have served our times. Like maybe this is it, and it's time for another form of intelligence to take over and do
yeah.
stuff differently. Maybe that's it. And if that's the case, then so be it. And given our track record and what we're currently doing, might not be the worst scenario. You know, maybe it might save us from destroying the planet we live on or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
In an
if there is
optimistic
anything
way.
that can help.
But I still think in so far as art is concerned, art has always been about, again, the very human nature and the very imperfect nature of things. And whether a computer simulation or a computer program will be able to get to that kind of uniqueness and I'm doubtful. I still think that, and as you said, like what is the future of music industry? I think it might very well be that this is like a turning point where, if we say, like, for example, AI increases music production by 200% in terms of like how many tracks are published and thrown out on Spotify and like in the other platforms, then maybe this will exactly be the point where people will turn back to the complete opposite. You know,
Yeah.
we could gradually, in terms of human production, we move to something that closely resembles AI or like programmed songwriting. And maybe now that we actually have the tools to have a computer take over, this might be the very moment where people realize I'm tired of this shit, and I'm tired of like going back to our McDonald's comparison. I'm tired of eating these shitty burgers that all taste the same wherever I go, wherever I am in the world. It's always the same. It's the same flavor. It's the same sort of like unsatisfied feeling afterwards, and I'm still hungry. And I want some real food. I want someone to cook for me. I want someone to use all the different cultural influences, their own personal influences, their idiosyncrasies, their personal history, their humanity, to serve me a fucking plate that I will enjoy because it's unique and it's never been done before. It will never be done in that way again. And this is what will make it like a unique eating experience. And I think it's the same. It might, hopefully, it will be the same with music.
That's all we want, to have unique experiences. Yeah, man. What a conversation.
Yeah.
Cool. How can people find you? What are your plans for your music in the future?
So I've just I haven't advertised it yet, but I just launched a Patreon page where people can subscribe, because I'm planning on doing producing much more content and live sessions and home studio recordings. So yeah, people can find. I have like a link tree where everything is on, which is quite handy.
Yeah, you can find it down in the episode if you scroll down.
Yeah,
you can see it.
That'd be nice. And then people can just, because people have different platforms. So there's some like the visual side, so they go on YouTube. Some like just the audio, so they'll be on Spotify and other streaming platforms. Some like to see the artists and pictures and stuff, so it'll be Instagram. And again, the Patreon is something that I've considered for a long while, and now I finally decided to do it in order to have a kind of like a closer connection to people who are interested in the project and want to follow me and support me, and also like kind of influence my songwriting and the next steps and stuff. So it's kind of scary. Like I'm like, because I'm a very not shy, but I'm a very
introverted.
Yeah. It's not really introvert. I'm just very careful with what I give out, or like the connection I have to people. So this is me going like, okay, there's no safeguards anymore. It's just gonna be in direct contact with the people who want to listen to the music, which is nice, and I think it's gonna be nice, and it will be a good motivation to create more stuff and not wait like for an album to be finished and then it's out, and then people have to wait 5 years before they get another taste of what you're up to.
Nice. So people can actually be part of the creative process in Patreon.
Yeah, I'll see. I have to adjust. This is like the ideal where I'm like, oh, this is going to be so democratic and open and everyone can give their opinion. I mean, the thing is that the next album is pretty much written already, so there's not too much space in terms of songwriting to change the direction and overall dynamic of the songs and stuff. But still, I mean, feedback is super important, and you usually get it when you play live and people come up to you and then they say like, "Yeah, I really like this song," or you talk about your lyrics and stuff. So this will be a nice way to transpose it to the digital world, and also have a space away from social media and very public platforms that everyone can access.
Yeah, this is nice. Yeah, talking about feedback, if someone made all the way until here, if someone from the listeners made their way all the episode until now, if they can write down on Spotify, there is a QA section on Spotify on the podcast, so if someone is listening right now and you made it all the way through,
I doubt that anyone will listen to the whole thing.
Well, let's prove otherwise to Matt. Yeah, prove otherwise. Write a comment, write anything, put some emojis or maybe what's the most what's the thing that you agree the most about what we talked about, or what's the thing that you disagree the most about what we talked about now. So it will be nice to receive some feedback on the podcast, definitely. Yeah, thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Well, my friend, final dance has begun. A time of reckoning has come. Come throw your bombs that this one can't stall it with walls and fences and guns. And we mourn our dead, recovering from this fever that has spread. No more killed or be killed. The earth is standing still. The world is no longer the same and never will be again. Can't blame it away, let someone else take the fall. You can't turn back time, wash our hands of it all. United we'll stand, but divided we'll fall. This is our final warning call. And we mourn our dead. The quiet after the storm that we have weathered. No more time to kill. Time standing still. The world is no longer the same and never will be again. And we mourn our dead, faced with the greatest challenge we are ever to have met. Stronger for all that cannot kill. The world is no longer the same and never will. But in the end we may find we are standing still. I lit a thin green candle to make you jealous of me. The room filled up with mosquitoes. They heard that your body was free, and they took the dust from a long sleepless night, and they put it in your little shoe. But I confess that I tortured the dress that you wore for the world to look through. I gave my heart to a doctor. He said, you just have to quit. Then he wrote himself a prescription, and your name was mentioned in it. And he locked himself in a library shelf with the details of our honeymoon. And I hear from the nurse that he's gotten much worse, and his practice is all in a ruin. I knew a saint who loved you, studied all night in his school. He taught that the duty of lovers is to tarnish the golden rule. And just when I thought that his teachings were pure, he went and drowned in a pool, and his body is gone. But out here on the lawn, his spirit continues to drool. An Eskimo showed me a movie he'd recently taken of you. The poor man could hardly stop shivering, and his face and his lips were all blue. And I suppose he froze when the wind took your clothes, and he never really got warm. But you stand there so nice in your blizzard of ice. Please let me come into your storm.